Hi, I'm Tyra, Mistress of the Imaginarium. Join me as I revisit all 6 seasons of the glue that held my geeky Saturday afternoons together, Highlander the series. Each episode, I will take a deep dive into each season based on story, characters, guest stars, and fights. Each section will receive katanas on a scale of 1 to 5. Also, I will give out what I call the Golden Clan MacLeod broadsword, awarded to the what the fuck moments or episodes that I just couldn't shake. So without further ado, and please be careful for spoilers, let's crack in. Season 4 opens up with a welcome surprise. Lead actor Adrian Paul is in the driver's seat as director this time around. Adrian would go on to direct one other episode, Methuselah's Gift, this season, and several more as the season continued. Although there's not a huge difference, I can tell when there's someone else other than series mainstay Dennis Barry behind the camera. I will say that it is interesting to have Adrian with his hand at the wheel. He seems to favor dramatic, character-driven stories with epic action sequences and cinematic camera work. At this point, Highlander the series is a completely separate entity from the Christopher Lambert movies. And season 4 as a whole takes us back to basics and explores what is it that really makes Duncan MacLeod tick. But more on that later. This season is actually a little lopsided with big huge character arcs for Duncan in the beginning, and then the second half acts as a sort of anthology season with one-off episodes. There's not even a big bad this season, and the 2-part season finale arrives so abruptly that it's almost as if the creators came to the end of the season and were like, oh shit, we don't have an ending, let's do Watcher episodes. That being said, there are some great one-off episodes that I do enjoy. The Double Eagle is a great shenanigans episode. In it, Mac's old friend Kid O'Brady, an immortal and lifelong gambler, comes to town, and he wants Mac to help buy him a racehorse that will hopefully end his 100-year losing streak. A streak that started when Amanda won his saloon in a bet. And of course, Amanda shows up at the same time, along with her own grudge against O'Brady. And Mac runs around desperately trying to keep them both apart and from killing each other. In the Immortal Kamoli, a 2-bit magician named Danny Kamoli is hit by a truck, therefore becoming immortal. Amanda and Mac find him at a circus where he has taken up the name The Immortal Kamoli, and is now taking bullets to the heart to the delight of the audience while remaining blissfully unaware that he is now part of the game. In one of my favorite episodes, Till Death, Mac, along with the help of a reluctant Mythos, tries to reconcile a passionate immortal couple that has been married for 300 years. The episode also features the return of Roger Daltrey as Fitz, and that is always a delight. The season is lopsided, but I think it has more to do with the fact that I watched it all in one go. It's just hard to dismiss this season, being that the series and the characters have grown so much that it can literally thrive without a format and still deliver great storytelling. So 4 out of 5 katanas. As I alluded to before, this season is really all about Duncan and exploring all of his inner workings. The showrunners even have Duncan buy a broken down house at the start of the season and rebuild it himself, symbolically showing the breaking down and rebuilding of Duncan's character. The adventure starts in the premiere episode Homeland, in which Duncan returns to his birthplace Glenfallen to return a bracelet that belonged to his long-lost first love, Deborah Campbell, and defend the modern descendants of his clan from an immortal masquerading as the village priest. Just as in any origin story, we get to see how Duncan came to be. Raised to be the chieftain of his clan, it was Duncan's mother and father who instilled in him his moral code. And so now, as a man, Duncan is committed to a sense of duty and can always be counted on to see things through, even to the end, even if it breaks his heart. What I love about this is that much like Captain America or Superman, we get to see the shadow side of what it means to be the too good hero, namely self-righteousness. Having grown up in the privileged position as a chieftain's son, Duncan was expected to be judge and jury while making decisions for the whole clan. A habit that now informs how he treats Richie, Joe, and even Mythos, who is thousands of years older than him. Duncan can also hold harsh judgment against those he considers corrupt or dangerous, even after years or centuries have passed. Unless he sees proof that they have changed, they are guilty. Once you hurt him, he doesn't forget. This all culminates in the two-part mid-season finale. In part 1, Something Wicked, Duncan reunites with his friend Koltek, only for Koltek, who has always been noble up to this point, to try to kill him. Koltek is a First Nations immortal who is said to have a special gift to absorb the darkness of others. After centuries of this, and hunting many evil immortals, he becomes overwhelmed and corrupted. Forced to kill Koltek, Duncan in turn is overwhelmed by a dark quickening, and in one of my favorite super storytelling tropes becomes the good guy gone bad, or face monster turn. And Duncan wasted no time going on a rampage. In part 2, Deliverance, after nearly killing Richie and then hightailing it out of town, Duncan spends the whole episode at war with himself, assaulting several people and even actually killing a friend. And that is all because Duncan is engaged with what Carl Jung and later Joseph Campbell called the shadow. No, not that one. The shadow is the unconscious part of our psyche that we have hidden, repressed, or denied. For Duncan, it provokes a crisis of meaning, forcing him to stand in all that he believes is right and good and true, or betray everything that he has ever stood for. And thankfully for Duncan, he is led to a magical spring by Mythos and is healed through the power of friendship and the Clan MacLeod broadsword. I'm going to give this whole story arc for Duncan 4 out of 5 katanas. It was really cool to see Adrian Paul let loose as evil Duncan. I also like the additions to immortal lore with dark quickenings and psychic powers. The only downside is that it makes the whole season lopsided and top heavy, and the rest just kind of peters out after that. Now, you may have noticed that only Duncan was mentioned in the last section, and that's because there was no room for anyone else. The rest of the cast is pretty much treated as guest stars this time around. Charlie is probably the only one who's truly shafted the most this season. After taking off last year in order to join a revolution with his new lover, he returns in the episode Brother in Arms, seeking to avenge the death of his lover, only to die because he had no idea that the man he is hunting isn't immortal. And I, for the life of me, can't figure out why Mac or Joe can't simply tell him this. Like, just have a conversation. Also, why bring him back to the show? Charlie was perfectly written out already. He seems only there to induce conflict between Joe and Mac, but more on that later. Richie is only in the first half of this season, which is a shame. My only complaint is that Richie never seems to stop being overly emotional or naive. Like in the episode Chivalry, which can only be described as an episode in which a woman's golden cooch drives a wedge between Mac and Richie. That is until Mythos, a man born long before the age of chivalry, puts a stop to it. A much better Richie episode is The Innocent, where Richie finds an immortal of limited mental development named Mikey. And the story centers on the compassion and sense of duty that he's learned from MacLeod. But Richie also struggles with the maturity that it would take to take care of someone like Mikey. The episode does have a very of mice and men feel to it, And with hindsight being 2020, the portrayal of autism is not the best. But all in all, it's a solid episode. Amanda returns in several episodes as well this season. Elizabeth Grayson adds much needed cheerfulness and fun and blends well into the cast. We even get to see a more tender and loving side of Amanda in the episode Reunion, where we learned that she was Kenny's first teacher, the immortal child from last year. The episode is interesting because as a person who will never have children of her own, Amanda gets to ponder what could have been. She even bonds with Mac's pregnant ex, Anne Lindsay. Mythos, as always, is fun. He acts as a sort of Socratic mentor to Mac for most of the season and even falls in love and then loses a mortal woman. But the main story thread that runs through the whole season is the relationship and friendship between Duncan and Joe. And believe me when I say it is a bromance for the ages. Like, so many makeups and breakups. It all starts in the episode Band of Brothers. In the episode, Charlie returns to town having tracked Andrew Cord there in order to kill him. Unfortunately for Charlie, not only is Cord an immortal, but also saved Joe's life in Vietnam after a mine explosion took his legs. Joe begs Mac not to kill Cord, but Cord kills Charlie anyway, driving a wedge between Mac and Joe. They continue to go back and forth this season, of course still looking out for one another when needed. That is until the two-part season finale. In the finale, the Watcher Tribunal kidnaps and investigates Joe for his friendship with Duncan, for having broken the major rule that Watchers are not supposed to interact with immortals and never interfere. If he's found guilty, he will be sentenced to death. Mac tries to help, but only succeeds in making things worse, especially with another immortal out there killing Watchers. I won't say anything more here because they are two great episodes to watch on their own. But the season pretty much ends with an immortal Watcher war being narrowly avoided. I love and hate this finale at the same time. I love it because they are two great episodes, but I hate the fact that they just rushed through it. I mean, you have a whole season's worth of story stuffed into 2 episodes. How awesome would it have been to see an immortal Watcher war? I mean, come on, guys. So I'm going to give this section 3.5 out of 5 katanas. Everyone gets their moment to shine, but alas, it is all too brief. The fights are really good this season. So good, in fact, it's almost an afterthought. But my favorite fight goes to the Superman 3 style fight of Duncan versus Duncan in the episode Deliverance. It's a simple, straightforward fight and it isn't even that long, but I like that the struggle for good and evil within Duncan comes down to him going mano-a-mano with himself. And being that Duncan is a warrior, it couldn't really happen any other way. 4 out of 5 katanas. And now, the Golden Clan MacLeod Broadsword Award goes to this moment. So that's it for Mac and me. Overall, I really did enjoy this season. There are so many great character moments and fun episodes. Now, I know I've been harping on the fact that the season is lopsided, but that's only because there is a huge noticeable gap in the second half of the season. But all in all, season 4 is just timeless action-adventure storytelling. Go watch it. Duncan will return in season 5, a season in which things only get weirder from this point on. In the meantime, please like, share, and subscribe, or you can follow me on Instagram at Mistress of the Imaginarium, and I will see you later.